Hello, people, and welcome to the start of the clay court swing. You know what? It may sound crazy to some of you, but this is actually my favorite swing of the whole year. And no, it's not just because Rafa Nadal is my favorite player and I'm a bit of a fan of his. I just genuinely love it. The sliding around, the different nature of it. It's just so different to every single bit of tennis. And it's just, I love it. I genuinely love it. The dirt, as they say. Obviously, not actual clay, it's stone, but crushed stone even. But I cannot wait. Cannot wait. Anyway, Monte Carlo Masters is here. We're going to go through the draw. Of course, that's why we're here. If you haven't already, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already for more content like this. We've got and had done so much content tennis-wise. It's incredible. So do make sure you are one, subscribed, two, liking the videos, and three, make sure you click the notification bell as well to get alerted to all the new content that we upload. The return of Novak Djokovic is here, finally. It's been so long since we've seen him on court, of course, and yeah, I mean, it's just great. I mean, yes, we saw him in the debate tournament against Vasily. Didn't really last too long there, which is understandable given he hadn't played any tennis until since US Open final last year. So he's hardly played any tennis this year, and he comes into this with a bye, which will be a good. I say that's good for him in terms of the draw, but to be honest with you, for him, he's probably thinking, I want as many matches as possible to just get under my belt, especially going into Roland Garros. There's a lot of clay court tournaments to play. He'll want to also pace himself, though, and not get injured, considering he hasn't played a lot in terms of matches anyway. I'm sure he's been training like a beast outdoors. And I don't think the break will affect him as much as some people might think. So it may take him a tournament or two, but he'll get there. And come Roland Garros, I think we're going to see close to, if not the best, Novak Djokovic. Anyways, on to the draw then. So Novak Djokovic is back, as I said. Then we've got Davidovich Fokina versus Giron. I'm going to go through each tie briefly and then also give my predictions as well. For that, I've actually got Davidovich Fokina. I think just on the clay, he's just going to be too strong. Goffin versus a qualifier, so we'll see who the qualifier is, but I'm going to go Goffin. And then Evans versus Batista Agut, or RBA. RBA is not a bad clay court player. Not as strong on the clay as you would expect a Spaniard to be in terms of, in comparison to his hard court form. But Dan Evans is not as bad on the clay as we think. The only issue he has is that he hits the ball very flat on the backhand side, slices a lot. I'm going to go with RBA. I think you'll have a little bit too much on the clay. Taylor Fritz versus Lucas Catarina. I think it's going to be Fritz. He's in good form. And yes, I know clay's not his preferred surface, but I think he should be able to get through that. And then Tsonga versus Cilic. Tsonga, of course, he will be retiring. So that is a massive blow to tennis. Well, what a player he has been. But he'll play Cilic, even. I can't see him getting through that. I think it's more of a farewell. Cilic for me is going to come through that. And then we've got Korda versus Van der Zandschulp. I think Korda, now, it will be interesting to see how Korda is on this surface. Van der Zandschulp would have had more experience playing on the clay generally, but Korda, you could say, is a slight level above in terms of class. But in terms of consistency, Van der Zandschulp is up there. He's a very, very tricky customer. We've seen him beat players like Felix in previous tournaments. But on the clay, I don't think either are particularly good on the clay. Well, they're not particularly suited anyway, game-wise, to the clay. So Korda's got an all-court game, you feel, but just hasn't had a lot of experience in these clay court tournaments. I'm going to go Korda, but with not a lot of confidence. And then he will most likely play Alcaraz, because Alcaraz has got a bye. I think Alcaraz beats either of those. Same with Djokovic against Davidovich Fokina or Giron. And what's so exciting is that Alcaraz could potentially play Djokovic. He's in the same quarter as Djokovic. That is crazy. We could see Djokovic versus Alcaraz in the quarterfinals of Monte Carlo. What a match that would be. Let's hope we get it. Then we scroll down. We've got Casper Ruud, the number 4 seed. He's got a bye. He'll play either a qualifier or Aslan Karatsev. I think Karatsev's come through that, but he doesn't necessarily like the clay, Karatsev. I think Ruud should come through that no problem. Lajovic versus Krajinovic in an all-Serbian affair. I'm going to go Lajovic. Dimitrov versus Basilashvili. Now, Basilashvili's got a very big game, but doesn't really translate too well onto the clay, but neither does Dimitrov, to be perfectly honest with you. It's really interesting, and I am going to be very interested watching some of these players who are not as accustomed or maybe as comfortable on the clay playing at this tournament, and just seeing how they do, because it's really intriguing to see. It really is. So I cannot wait. Let's see how it pans out. But for me, I'm going to go Dimitrov, but again, with not a lot of confidence. And then I think the big thing for me will be, it's just how the rest of it goes. And I think, we've got Hurkacz versus Monfils. That for me is like a pick'em, as in that is the probably tie of the first round. What an absolutely ridiculous, what a ridiculous tie. That is absolutely mind-boggling. Can't believe that's the first rounder. I think Monfils is going to have too much on the clay. Hurkacz has actually got a relatively okay game for the clay. The only issue that he'll have is the forehand is just not potent enough. And really, to have a lot of success on the clay, you need to have a potent forehand with a lot of topspin as well. And I think he just struggles a lot. And you almost want to be running around your backhand a lot of times because it's a slower surface and dictating. He's not really able to do that. He comes to the net a lot. It's not really part of the clay court game. Monfils, he does have the forehand to do it. And not just that, he has a game which is suited to the clay. He's played a lot on clay, being from France as well. And obviously he's got experience there. So I'm going to go with Monfils. And then he could play Martinez or Humbert. Now, Humbert has not been in very good form this year. I'm going to back him, but we'll see. Again, his game is more suited to the grass, even though he's grown up on clay courts. So I'm going to go with all French affair in the second round, but Monfils, I think, should come through that little section quite easily. Then we've got Norrie, and I think Norrie is going to be really good on the clay again, like he was last year. I think he had a good little run. He'll play either Ramos Vinolas or Greixspor. Greixspor's been in really good form, but Ramos Vinolas is more suited to the clay, so I'm going to go with the Spaniard, and then Norrie to come through that. And then we've got Felix with a bye. Now, he's not been in particularly good form. He hasn't actually won a match at Roland Garros, if I'm not mistaken, either yet in his career. I would assume that he's going to break that mold this year. I think he's going to have some success on the clay. The slower surfaces means that he's able to dictate more with his forehand. He's got an all-round game. He should be good enough, really, now to make some type of deep runs on the clay. He's done it on the hard courts, and obviously he's done a pretty good job, if I may say so, on the grass as well, which he seems to love. So for me, he'll get through that. But then he's got a really potentially a very tough second round. Now, he's got Musetti versus Paire is the potential two players he could play. I think Musetti's going to come through that. He's really exciting. Of course, he was 2 sets to love up against Djokovic last year at Roland Garros. Didn't manage to get it done, but he's really exciting. Hasn't quite managed to replicate his results on other surfaces, but on the clay, he is, at the moment, he's still, a clay court specialist, you would say. Musetti versus Felix is a battle of the young guns, and it's a pick'em. It really is. I'm pretty unsure. I think Musetti is more comfortable on the surface, but Felix should have the class to shine through. And normally that golfing class should show through on any surface. Doesn't always, but it should. So I'm going to go with Felix. Fucsovics versus Lloyd Harris. Lloyd Harris hasn't been the best of form. I think Fucsovics is going to come through. I don't think both are super comfortable on the clay. Schwartzman, now this is where he will start to shine. He loves the clay. He'll play Khachanov. That's a really tough first round, first of all, by the way. But second of all, should win that. Khachanov, the forehand is just too inconsistent for me. Schwartzman's too consistent in my book, and I think he'll come through that, and I think he'll come through that second round as well against Fucsovics or Harris. Then we've got Sonego versus Ivashka. Now, Sonego's, again, a pretty damn good clay court player. He'll be relishing this swing. And I think against Ivashka, he should come through it. It won't be an easy match, but should come through it. And then Ger as well versus a qualifier. So that's very interesting. I think Ger should come through. Of course, we don't know who the qualifier is yet, so I'm just going to go with him. And then Sonego, I think, should beat him. Fognini versus Ridonek. I think Fognini for me. And then Tsitsipas in the second round, that's a very tasty affair. But Tsitsipas should have a little bit too much for him. Rublev versus either Alex de Minaur or a qualifier. Alex de Minaur, he's got the consistency for the clay. I don't know how much he's going to enjoy playing on it, to be perfectly honest with you. But the biggest question will be, how does he move on it? And he's got a fantastic speed, but is he able to translate that onto the clay courts? We shall see. Rublev, again, he does move quite well on the clay. Obviously, had some success last year on the clay as well. Went quite deep in some of the Masters tournaments and some of the other 500s, 250s. I would say that for Rublev, it might be a nice change of pace in the sense that he's able to make a lot more forehands. He's played a lot of tennis this year, though. Barely misses a tournament. I'm just wondering what's the wear and tear going to be like on his body. But he did exit Miami early with Kyrgios beating him. That could be a blessing in disguise to give him some rest. So let's see. I'm hoping that he brings some of his best form into this swing. And I think, you normally need to have a very good form, which he does. High topspin, which he does. The serve, okay, a little bit underpowered, but on clay, the margins are slightly higher, so you can almost get away with it. And then you need to have a bit more diversity, so the drop shots, etc. He doesn't quite have that. He can be a little bit one-dimensional at times. Let's see how he goes, Rublev, but I think he could have some success. And I think he'll beat Alex de Minaur in the second round as well. Qualifier versus Christian Garin. Christian Garin, remember, he was in the top 20 last year. Look, I don't want to sound mean because I think he is a good player. I just don't think he was as good as his ranking was suggesting last year, which was, I think, 15 or 16, 17 at one point. And I just think he's probably he's a top 30, top 50 player. But he'll get through that. Then he'll play either Sinner or Coric. I think if Sinner is fit and recovered from the blisters, Sinner should blast through both Coric and Garin, just being in such good form. And that could set up a fantastic match between Sinner and Rublev. That would be great, wouldn't it? Then we've got Wawrinka making his return. Great to see him against Bublik. That's a really tough first round for Wawrinka. And whoever wins that will most likely play PCB in the second round as well. PCB, more of a hardcore player, despite being of Spanish origin. Of course, a lot of the Spanish players love the clay because they've grown up there. Makes sense. But for PCB, no. He actually loves the hard courts and he's a lot better on them. But he's not a bad clay court player either. Wawrinka, of course, wild card, but he's a former French Open champion and 3-slam champion. So Wawrinka is, incredibly gifted, but he's towards the back end of his career. He's had a lot of injuries. We'll see how he is. He's really recovering still. Bublik's not an easy proposition. I could see an upset there, but hopefully he comes through it and looks pretty good. But I can't see him getting anywhere past that second round, honestly. PCB will be a step too far, I think, at this kind of condition that he's in at the moment. Once he gets some more match practice in him and kind of match conditioning, I think he will be, who knows? We'll see. I can't see him going to a semi-final run in Garros, but, if he was fully fit, could he make a quarter? Yeah, don't see why not. In his heyday, he was just almost unplayable. He was unplayable, really, for a period of time, Wawrinka, in some matches. No one could beat him, not even the big three. Delbonis versus a qualifier, so Delbonis come through that. And then Zverev will play Delbonis, probably. Zverev has been in some really weird form, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's very hard to describe what's going on with him. I don't really know what's going on with him at all. Let's just hope that he kind of finds some form. Now, the clay might be a nice change of pace for him again. He just needs to make sure he's not playing pedestrian tennis. The forehand needs to be more potent. I feel like he's gone back a little bit this year to hitting a lot of cross-court forehands, loopy, not really much on it. Just kind of hitting kind of rallying strokes. And you just think, come on, you've got so much ability. Why are you doing this? Whereas we saw at the Olympics, at the US Open, at the ATP World Tour Finals, he has a complete game when he pieces it together that is a threat on any surface to any player. It's just whether he has the mental mindset and then the game plan in place And actually the braveness really to execute it. So we'll see. We'll see. So that potentially then means Zverev versus Rublev in the quarterfinal, Tsitsipas versus Felix, Norrie versus Ruud, and Alcaraz versus Djokovic. So I'm going to repeat that. The quarterfinals, potential quarterfinals, Djokovic versus Alcaraz, Ruud versus Norrie, Felix versus Tsitsipas, Rublev versus Zverev. Now, if we think about that, so potentially, if I'm doing my predictions now, which I'm going to do, why not? Djokovic against Alcaraz. I think Alcaraz actually will have too much just because I think Djokovic isn't going to be 100%, even if he does make the quarterfinals. So I'm going to go Alcaraz. So he'll make the semi. Then Ruud versus Norrie. I'm actually going to go Norrie to get revenge over Ruud after losing in Miami. So Alcaraz versus Norrie in the semis. Then Felix versus Tsitsipas. Now, this, by the way, I'm not doing like my full draw. This is just, I'm doing it based on the predicted quarterfinals. Felix versus Tsitsipas. I'm going to go Tsitsipas. I think he's too good on the clay. And then Rublev, Zverev. I'm actually going to go Rublev. Then I think Tsitsipas beats Rublev. And I think Alcaraz beats Norrie. And then I think Alcaraz beats Tsitsipas in the final. And I think Alcaraz wins his second Monte Carlo. Sorry, his second Masters 1000. And he wins Monte Carlo. Is that my prediction? Yeah, you know what it is. I'm gonna be brave. I'm gonna be brave. I'm not even riding the wave because I did predict Alcaraz to win Miami. I'm gonna predict him to win this as well. He'll have to come through some fantastic players: Djokovic, potentially Ruud or Norrie, and then also Tsitsipas or Zverev, or Rublev. So it's going to be a really, really tough road for him. But I don't see why not. In terms of dark horses, I think there's a lot of really good players on the clay that we need to watch out for. And I think, someone like a Schwartzman, look out for him. Someone like a Musetti as well. It's interesting. It's really interesting. Wawrinka, I think it's too early, so I'm not going to say him. But yeah, I mean, Korda, when I say dark horse, could he make he's got Alcaraz in the second round. He's not really going to come through that, let's be honest. So for me, it's pretty black and white who I think is going to kind of come through these matches. But we'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of matches to play. There's some crackers. And in terms of my first rounds to watch, so if you're a spectator or your viewer and you're looking at matches to watch, and you're unsure 100% about, maybe a lot of the players, etc., and you want to watch some exciting matches, for me, the best matches to watch are the first round. RBA versus Dan Evans is one. Korda van der Zandschulp is another. Her Catch One Feast is the pick of the first rounds for me. That's a must watch, genuinely. Musetti pair's a good one as well. And that's a fantastic one. Khachanov versus Schwartzman as well. That's my second best pick, to be fair. That's a fantastic one. So make sure you do check in. Tune in for those. And Wawrinka Bublik as well is a good one as well. It is. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Do appreciate it. Please remember to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. So my prediction is Alcaraz to win his second straight Masters title. Will he do it? I don't know. It's a big ask, but given what I've seen from the field and what I'm looking at and just taking in everything into consideration, I think if he's fully fit, it's going to be quite hard to stop him. But I'm sure Djokovic, Ruud, Tsitsipas, Zverev, Rublev, all these guys are going to have something to say about it. I wouldn't be surprised. It's pretty open. It's going to be a great tournament. I'm so happy we have the start of the clay court swing finally here. It's a shame, of course, we don't have Nadal's injured team. Berrettini, for example, as well. Those three players especially. But great to see some players back like Djokovic and Wawrinka. So, swings and roundabouts. Thanks very much, guys. Stay safe and well, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you.